Hey everybody, got a little snazzy with that intro video there. I just decided to kind of play around with something new in StreamYard. So welcome to week 4. Happy to be here. Also playing around with my background blurred, which that's for actually I'm testing on you all for something else that I have to do to see if I like it, which I'm not really loving it, but we're just going to leave it the way it is. So anyway, welcome to week 4. Super excited to be here. We are going to talk today about assigning a home for all of your now destashed and sorted supplies. And obviously, you might not be there yet, but that's okay. You're going to have the information that you need to move forward when you are ready. So let me get myself situated here, and I'm trying to, how do I turn this off? There we go. Okay. So just to kind of recap, where we have been, we spent our first week doing a little prep and talking about actually we haven't really spent our first 2 weeks doing a little prep and talking about the different barriers that get in our way to getting organized. So we looked at sort of some logistical challenges and then some things that are outside of our control. And then we kind of talked a little bit about some emotional and kind of mental things that get in our way. I tend to refer a lot to the attaching sentimentality to stuff when I talk about that, because I think that's an easy one for people to relate to. Whether it's you or not, you probably know someone who does that. And, that can kind of get in your way because you end up accumulating a lot of stuff that you can't get rid of. And that creates issues when you're trying to make space for things. So we've talked about all that. And then last week we talked about sorting and destashing our supplies. So creating a system first and foremost of how you wanted to organize. We talked about setting up your space in zones by kind of type of crafting, if you have enough space to do that, and if you are engaged in a lot of different kinds of craft activities. We talked about using the Totally Tiffany method for organizing supplies, so organizing by alphabet, rainbow, seasons, and themes. You can hybrid those two things together, whatever works best for you. And then we talked about sorting mostly by supply type. So I kind of demonstrated a little bit of that with some paper crafting supplies. So, kind of sorted actually a bag of things that I needed, some dies and some actual die cut pieces, some stickers or some stamp sets, some other kinds of embellishments, and kind of talked through how I do that. And then we talked about the need to destash and some strategies around that, especially if that's challenging for you, incorporating some help. And, having somebody come in who understands what you're trying to accomplish and can really help you think through, do I need this? When was the last time you used this? Is this really my style? And then some ways to destash where you're not feeling like you are just throwing things away that still might have usable value. So donating items to a school or a nursing home or a library, or, a new crafter who, may not be have a fully stocked craft room yet. The other thing I didn't mention last week when I thought about that is if you go to events, if you go to crops and things like that, oftentimes they'll have a freebie table. And so you can take your things and leave them at the table, and people who are there that need something might go to the freebie table and be like, oh, I want this, this sticker fits perfectly with what I'm working on. So anytime you're going to a crop or something like that, you should always ask whether or not they'll have a freebie table available, and you can take your things there. So there's ways to do that don't feel like you are contributing to, landfills and things like that. And also you're not just throwing away perfectly usable things. And so, so we talked some about that. And so some of you may still be working through all of those various sections, and that's completely okay. But for anybody who's ready, I wanted to move on to the next piece of the equation, which is assigning a home and containerizing. So imagine, if you will, that you have sorted and destashed everything, and you are now trying to move to the next step of figuring out, where am I going to put things? And the assign a home piece of it means you find a home for everything. Now, that home could be temporary. The goal is permanent, but as you've worked through this process, you may have realized that you need to rearrange some furniture. And that may mean moving something from another room into your craft room and swapping out pieces. Or you may need a table of some sort and you're looking for that. Or you need storage containers for the things you need to store. And I have told you not to buy anything yet. And we'll get to that part. So, and what you need, you might have to look for, because it may not be readily available, or what you want might not be readily available. So temporary is okay, but permanent is the end goal. And you want to make sure that you have a home for everything. This also might beg the question that you have to answer: did you declutter or destash enough? And sometimes you won't really know that until you try to containerize. You might be already looking at a space, at a pile of things, and being like, I don't know that I have room for all of that, which might mean there needs to be another round of destashing, and that's okay. That's part of the process. When you're assigning a home, you want to think about functionality. So beyond your organized only space, which, we talked about, and the things that we talked about needing to have handy, and that those are things you use all the time, and things that you want on your organized only or in your organized only space. What do you need close versus what can be in a closet or in a storage container, that might take you 3 steps to get into because you don't use it that frequently. So for me, in trying to think about a useful example here, I thought about yarn. So I do crochet. I have tried to learn how to knit, not very well. But I have yarn, and I have too much yarn, and I'm attempting to destash that. If anybody needs some yarn, let me know. But my yarn is in tote bags up in the top of my closet. It doesn't bother me that it takes me, moving some things around and pulling those out to get to it, because I don't use my yarn that often, as opposed to my chalk, paste, and ink, which are in a rolling cart right over here to my left, and literally requires me to stand up and take 2 steps from my desk to be able to get to that, because I use those all the time. Almost every time I'm crafting something, I'm using paste or ink. So that needs to be nearby. All of my papers are nearby. My tools, even ones that aren't on my desk, are nearby. So you want to think about that kind of functionality. Remember that one of our logistical challenges was inconvenient storage. So an inconvenient storage leads to things not getting put away. It's not so much that getting them out is the problem, it's the putting them away that's the problem. So you want to make sure that your storage is convenient on both ends. What you need close by is close by, so that when you're ready to put it away, it's easy to put away as well. Also, remember to think vertically. So we want to maximize our vertical space, especially for those of you that have small spaces. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well particularly in the Q&A for this week in the Facebook group, because I've already gotten some questions about small spaces, and I've been holding on to them for this week because I think they fit well here. But, vertical storage is an excellent way to maximize your space. So whether you can attach shelves to the wall, whether you can utilize a bookshelf that you already have by moving things around, or, as part of your de-stash process, were you able to remove some things and then create some space? I have purchased a storage cabinet. I'll put a link to that in the Facebook group. It was just the right height. That was my challenge. I had a height that I couldn't go above because of some things that I have on the wall that I don't want to move. It was just the right height, and it's going to give me some vertical space and some pegboards and things like that are going to really help me move some things around in my space. So though that's the process that you're going to want to go through when you are assigning things a home. And I'm going to do a little video tour of my craft room this week, and I will put it in the Facebook group. And for those of you that aren't in the Facebook group, I'll send out a link to that, so you all can see sort of how I have things set up in relationship kind of to my desk, and how I made my decisions to put things where I put them. Some of those decisions get made for us. If you have something that has to be plugged in, you are driven by where the plugs are to a certain extent. You can use extension cords and you can use power strips, but you can't have them. Kind of dangerous to have them, traversing the whole entire floor in your room. So even for me, and I have a decent sized room, my printer is where it is because that's where the printer stand fit and that's where the plugs are. But I've made that work, in various ways, and made sure that the things on the printer stand are things that either go with the printer or that it's convenient to have those things located in that place. I am very excited about the storage cabinet that I bought has plugs. So I'll be able to plug that into a main outlet over here on this wall and have some things plugged in, like my postage meter. So I have a postage meter, or a postage scale that I use for when I have to ship out orders. And right now it's not convenient. It's not plugged in. It's stuck on a shelf. I have to get it out, plug it in, all that. So I'm excited because I'm going to be able to leave it plugged in over on that storage cabinet, and it'll make it much easier to utilize. And then containerizing. So this can be the super fun part. And this is the part that I've told you, hold off. This is where you decide what types and sizes of containers do you need to hold supplies in your assigned space. So you're going to want to make sure you have a notebook and a measuring tape, and probably something, your phone or something to take pictures as you're making decisions. But you're going to measure your available space and figure out what you need. I'm going to pull some pictures over here in a minute and show you all what I use for different things. But I wanted to talk first about some economical and eco-friendly ways to do this. So this does not require that you go out and spend a whole lot of money. If you've been putting a little money aside for this, that's great. If you want to do that as your, reward for working through the process, that's great, but you don't have to. You can use cardboard boxes. I actually have a cardboard box, and I have a supplemental video for this week. I'll show you. I have a cardboard box that holds my acrylic, my clear unmounted stamp sets, because I kind of want to rearrange my setup in my closet with my cubes, and I don't want to buy anything yet, because if I rearrange that, what I buy might not fit in the collects shelves from IKEA that I keep thinking that I want. So I have a cardboard box. I measured the cube that I needed, found a cardboard box that fit, cut the tabs off so that they're not in the way. And I made little dividers out of the tabs for my stamps, and it works perfectly. Now, I was putting the last sets of stamps in that I just bought, and the box is getting a little small. So I probably need to find one that's a little bit bigger. Or I'm going to have to carry over into just another small box that will still fit in that same location. So cardboard boxes, repurposing things you already have or can thrift. Let's pull this out before I started the video, so my apologies, but this is, and now it's camera's blurring on me. Hold on, let me turn that off. Can I do that? Yeah, there it is. Okay, there we go. Okay, you can see I've been cleaning in here again, so it's kind of a bit of a mess. Got some empty cardboard boxes right there that need to go away. So this is a wooden sign. It was a blank wooden sign. It was intended to get hung. You can still see the pieces of twine, but I painted it, added some chalk elements to it, and then these are empty toilet paper rolls that I painted and hot glued into the inside of the sign. And this is for my paintbrushes because I'm finding I need access to those better, and it can sit on my desk now. Now, this was part of a mystery box challenge. I don't know if any of you saw that video on my YouTube channel. I'll link it. I'll link to it in the Facebook group. But when we decided that the toilet paper roll was going to be our challenge item for the month, I had seen this on Pinterest, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. And the Pinterest thing was for makeup brushes, but you could do this for paintbrushes, pens and pencils, markers, anything like that. And, you know, something a little bigger, more toilet paper rolls will hold more stuff. So if you have things that you've thrifted, if you like to thrift and repurpose, you can think about that. It's a little harder if you're looking for things that are specific sizes, but even cardboard boxes, you can paint and decorate and make nice and pretty. Glass jars work great for pens and pencils and paintbrush holders. Old magazine stands or old magazine racks work great for envelopes and papers and mailing supplies, or, you know, anything like that. So, you know, spend a little time at Goodwill, or if you have a thrift store that you like, checking it out. Now that you're thinking about things you might need, what do you see that you were like, oh, if I just paint that, I could use it for X, Y, and Z. And this is definitely a way to use the Facebook group. If you have ideas, if you have questions, throw those in there. People might have amazing ideas for you that are relatively inexpensive and easy. Obviously, you know, we're crafters. We want it pretty. That makes complete and total sense. But in the interim, you can absolutely, you know, repurpose things to help you out as you work towards getting the containers you want or the storage items that you want. Also utilize sales. So Amazon deal days are next week, the 8th and the 9th. I've been watching to see if there's any craft organization supplies pop up in the early deals. I haven't seen any yet, but that doesn't mean they're not there. I'm going to spend a little bit more time doing that this week. I am going to put in the Facebook group, and I'll send out in an email a list with links to some of my favorites and the things that I'm going to show you now. And again, I welcome anybody in the group who has some things that they love or that they're curious about to do the same thing, so that we can, you know, share ideas with one another about how to make this work. So I'm going to pull some slides in with some pictures of some of my supply items. Apologize, this doesn't say week 4. So this is how I organize my paper. So it's just those 12 by 12 paper organizers. You can also use old like magazine sorters or holders. I forget what they call them. There's a name for them. But if you go on Amazon or Google search 12 by 12 paper organizer, you'll find, various ones of these. So these black ones were my favorite. Those were made by a company called Cropper Hopper that is no longer in business. So I, buy the clear ones now. The black ones are better. If I ever got my hands on a stash of those again, I would be so happy. But then they've got the tabs, and I've got them divided, again, using the Totally Tiffany method. So I have by color. So multi is kind of like a miscellaneous, and when you're creating your categories, you really want to try to avoid miscellaneous because it just becomes a catch-all. And when I organize papers by color or other types of embellishments and paper crafting supplies by color, what I usually try to do is if it's something that has multiple colors, whatever color I see first, and there's always a color that jumps out at me first, I put it there. However, there are some that are there's just too much color and not one pops out at me first. And I do have that multicolor, but it's a very small stash paper. I try not to do that. And then back here, we have my themes that correspond to that themes list that I shared in the group last week. And I meant to email that out and didn't. So everybody who got the email with today's information, the link to today's video and all that should have gotten a link to the themes list. I use these 4x6. I think they're 4x6 file folder or file index file holders for like journaling boxes and photo mats. And then these are actually creative memories. I'm not sure if they even make these anymore. That I use kind of for the same thing. These are just bigger. They won't fit in there. But that actually works for me because I know if it's a 4x6 picture and I need a photo mat, I'm going to look in one of these. As I start to whittle down what is in here, I will probably just go to these completely because I don't think I can replace these creative memories ones. And these are also sorted by, these are all sorted by color. I have, and seasons and themes. So I have these labeled. You just can't see it in the picture. And the stash right there is some stuff that needs to be put away. And these fit neatly on just one of the smaller shelves on my bookcase. I use these Iris. I think they may not all be Iris, but that's the brand that I prefer. 12 by 12 organizers for scrapbook pages, and then I label them. So this is project specific, the finished pages that just need to be put in albums, and in progress pages. So this project specific is papers and embellishments that I have purchased to go with specific pictures. I want to make sure I don't use that stuff for anything else because it's to go with something specific. The pictures are not in there. The pictures are organized separately. I'm considering swapping that out and putting the pictures in there with the embellishments, and then just layering like paper or something in between to keep everything together. This is my chalk, paste, and ink. This second section needs to be organized like this. I'm actually reconsidering this. I have been looking, I didn't put it in here. I will share it in the Facebook group. I have been looking at a better way to do this, and I found some storage containers, some little baskets that will hold 6, I think, pastes in it, paste or ink jars in it, and go all the way across one of my bookshelves. to make these more easily accessible and easier to just swap in and out what colors go, because I organize this by the rainbow system, sort of. But it's the way I have it's challenging as I buy new colors. So I'm rethinking this. It kind of works for now, but I'm not loving it. And this is a process that you might go through when you're assigning a home and containerizing. You might try something and give something a good couple of weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, really, if you can stand it. But you may realize you don't like it, and then you got to switch it up. And that's a normal part of the process. This is my scrap rack, and I actually do have a supplemental video recorded for you to talk a little bit about what this is. I don't think she makes these anymore. This was a totally Tiffany product, but you can make one yourself using various types of things. So we'll talk about that. 12 by 12 binders are definitely a great way to go if something like this is what you might be interested in. But this is all of my stickers, die cuts, and other kinds of embellishments for scrapbooking and card making. Again, organized by alphabet, no color in this, just alphabet, and themes using that themes list that I shared in the Facebook group. This is how I organize small things like buttons and brads and eyelets, tags and flowers. These two front ones right here are beads. Just haven't labeled it because I know what they are, but these are kind of like those almost tackle box kinds of things. And they work great because they have little dividers that you can put in yourself, so you can create as many compartments as you want. You can have, you know, an assortment of small compartments and then like 1 or 2 larger compartments. And, you know, I usually keep the little tab things in there so that I can switch it up as I need to. And these fit great. Like I could fit 4 more of these in this little storage cube that's in my closet behind me. And then I just use 2 storage containers without the lids on them for my additives, and that's VLR, and I've got Epsom salts and diamond dust and salt wash and some extra glue and my gator sander. That's my Dixie Belle stain and my Mod Podge. So those kinds of things that are I don't know what the word is to categorize them. But all of those things are together mentally. I know what they all are and I know where it is, so I don't have to be able to explain it to anybody else because it's my system. My gilding wax. See, I've got my gilding wax in there. Some of my distressing supplies and stuff are in there. So yeah, that's all what those are. And it just without the lids, because 1, it wouldn't fit, and 2, I need to be able to just reach in and grab and put it back. And those sit on my storage cubes in my closet. So that's kind of the highlights. I have more that I want to share. And like I said, I will, I'm going to do a little tour of my craft space video for this week and share it in the Facebook group. And I'll email out a link because I know not everybody's in the group. But I want everybody to have access to that information. Let me go back to my notes to make sure that I covered everything. So this was a little bit of a shorter lesson this week because I didn't want to throw everything at everybody right out of the gate. I wanted you to have a little time to think and absorb what we're talking about this week. And then I'll be adding, like I said, the supplemental materials as we go along. If you're not in the Facebook group, this would be the week to join. I know I think I said that about last week too. And I do think last week was a really important week, but now we're really talking about setup and structure and how to arrange things. And we'll be sharing lots of information about different types of storage containers and what they're good for, and some of my favorite things, and asking people to do the same. So I think there's going to be a lot of information forthcoming in this next week about how to do that. And I know that and if you haven't even gotten through the first few weeks, you probably aren't even watching week 4. But I know that you have, for some of you, may not have worked through even up to this point right now. Things get busy, we get distracted, we lose focus, or something comes up and we can't tend to things. So as we go into next week and week 6, I'll be talking about some future opportunities and some ways to continue to access this content after our 6 weeks are officially over. So it was good to see everybody. We will do our live Q&A. Let me see what I apologize. I should have had this information at hand. I think I'm just going to combine Q&As this week since I wasn't able to do yesterday's, and my apologies for that. Let's do our live Q&A for this week on Sunday. So Sunday, October 6th at 1 o'clock Central, and I'll create the event for that. And we'll come together and we'll do Q&As from last week as well as Q&As from this week, and celebrate some wins, because we have some wins to celebrate, which I'm very excited about. And then we will go into week 5, which is talking about maintaining our systems and setting up some processes for making sure that once we get to a place of getting organized, that again, we are making sure that we have it set up in a way that makes it easy for us to be able to stay that way or get back to that way in periods where everything is just sort of busy and space gets away from us, which it just does. It's just going to do that from time to time. And then week 6, we're just going to spend a little time pulling it all together and connecting all the dots and answering any final questions. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some things I have coming up that I think might be of interest to all of you. So thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the Facebook group this week and on Q&A next Sunday. And have a wonderful week. Bye.